Hello and welcome to Worldnewstg, your trusted gateway to global affairs. We bring you the most important stories from around the world, from breaking news to in-depth analysis so you never miss what matters most. If you found this report insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Worldnewstg. Hit the notification bell so you're always the first to know when global headlines break. Stay informed, stay ahead, stay with Worldnewstg. Russia's response to Ukraine's UAV attacks in May 2025, following a series of drone UAV attacks by Ukraine on Russian territory in May 2025. Russia has taken several notable actions in response: military and strategic response, official acknowledgement, and initial reaction. On June 1st, the Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed that Ukraine had launched drone attacks targeting military airfields in the Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ivanovo, Ryazan, and Amur regions. The ministry reported that several aircraft were damaged, but fires were quickly extinguished and there were no human casualties. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov assured that all damaged aircraft would be repaired and dismissed Ukraine's claims of significant losses. Formation of the Russian Unmanned Systems Forces to enhance its UAV defense and offense capabilities. Russia established a new military branch in 2025, the Russian Unmanned Systems Forces. The unit is projected to grow to 210,000 personnel by 2030, focusing on operating and developing UAV systems in air, sea, and underwater domains. This strategic move is seen as a direct response to the increasing drone threat from Ukraine. Rapid increase in UAV production and launch capacity. Russia has significantly scaled up UAV production, particularly the Giran drone, reaching a rate of 70 units per day, compared to 21 per day in 2024. Additionally, Russia is constructing new launch pads, aiming to bring 12 to 15 new sites online, which would enable the deployment of over 500 UAVs per night. Diplomatic and media reactions when condemnation of Ukraine's drone strikes. Russian officials have labeled Ukraine's UAV attacks as acts of terrorism and have accused the West, particularly the United States, of being complicit. During a 75-minute phone call with US President Donald Trump, President Vladimir Putin expressed dissatisfaction over Washington's silence regarding the attacks. Impact on the ongoing conflict. While Ukraine has claimed major success in its spiderweb drone campaign, Russian authorities stated that most Ukrainian UAVs were intercepted and denied any significant damage. As of now, Russia has not launched any immediate military retaliation against Ukraine for the large-scale drone assaults. International reactions to the escalation. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict continues to intensify, the international community has issued various responses following Ukraine's UAV strikes on Russian territory in May and early June 2025. United States, warning of retaliation, unclear commitment after the call with President Putin. President Donald Trump stated that Russia was likely to retaliate against Ukraine's drone attacks on its strategic bombers. However, he did not make any concrete commitments regarding further US support for Ukraine, leaving Washington's stance uncertain. United Kingdom, massive increase in UAV aid at the Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting in Brussels. UK Defense Secretary John Healey announced a tenfold increase in drone aid, committing to deliver 100,000 UAVs as part of a $350 million support package. Germany pushed for additional air defense systems. Germany has launched a new initiative to secure more air defense systems for Ukraine, particularly Patriot systems. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius urged allied nations to contribute available air defense platforms to help protect Ukraine from escalating UAV attacks. France, call for stronger measures. French President Emmanuel Macron called for firm action to enforce a ceasefire, emphasizing everyone knows that only Russia wants this war. He also supported Ukraine's use of French-supplied weapons to strike Russian military targets. Canada, Poland, and Finland, unconditional support. These countries have declared that Ukraine may use the weapons they provided to strike military targets inside Russia, as long as such actions comply with international law. European Union, condemnation of Russian missile strikes. Following a missile attack on the city of Sumy in Ukraine, multiple EU leaders condemned Russia's actions. European Commission, President Ursula von der Leyen called the strike barbaric and a grim reminder of Russian brutality. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz accused President Putin of committing war crimes. Coalition of the Willing. Security commitments to Ukraine. A coalition of 31 countries, led by the UK and France, has pledged to strengthen support for Ukraine, including the possibility of deploying peacekeeping forces if a comprehensive ceasefire is reached. United Nations. Condemnation of attacks on civilians. The UN humanitarian coordinator in Ukraine, Mr. Matthias Schmale, condemned the missile strike on Sumy, stressing that international humanitarian law prohibits attacks targeting civilians.
Gaza. Israel conflict in early June 2025. Escalation, humanitarian crisis, and diplomatic deadlock. The conflict between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip has entered its 8th month, with increasingly intense clashes and a rising civilian death toll. In the first days of June 2025, heavy Israeli airstrikes, rocket attacks by Hamas, and a rapidly deteriorating humanitarian situation have sparked international concern over a looming catastrophe. Escalating violence, casualties, and relentless attacks. According to Gaza's Ministry of Health and various human rights organizations, at least 52 people were killed on June 5th alone due to Israeli airstrikes. Among the victims were at least 7 individuals, including 4 journalists, who died in a drone strike near Al-Ali Hospital. The total death toll in Gaza since the war erupted in October 2023 has surpassed 54,500, with the majority being women and children. One of the most controversial incidents was a missile strike in Al-Mawasi, an area previously declared a humanitarian safe zone by Israel. The strike hit a food distribution center, killing 4 and injuring dozens. Israel described the event as unintentional, but the United Nations and other international bodies have called for an independent investigation. Israel's perspective. Determined to eliminate Hamas, Israel has consistently stated that its military campaign is aimed at dismantling Hamas's operational capacity, safeguarding national security, and ensuring that the October 7, 2023 attacks, which left over 100 Israelis dead and hundreds taken hostage, are never repeated. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has repeatedly emphasized there will be no compromise until Hamas is completely destroyed. During a special operation in Rafah, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, recovered the bodies of 2 Israeli-American hostages. However, the operation also resulted in more than 45 Palestinian deaths and hundreds of injuries, triggering international outrage. The IDF maintains it targets only Hamas militants and infrastructure, and it accuses Hamas of using civilians as human shields by embedding weapons and command centers within schools, hospitals, and residential areas. However, human rights organizations argue that the level of civilian casualties has crossed the threshold into potential war crimes. Hamas and Palestinian armed groups' perspective. Hamas denies using civilians as shields and insists it is defending the Palestinian people against what it describes as a full-scale military occupation. The group accuses Israel of deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, power plants, and aid centers. In early June, Hamas proposed a 60-day ceasefire agreement, offering to release 10 live hostages and hand over the remains of 18 others in exchange for the release of over 1,200 Palestinian prisoners and a gradual Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza. The proposal gained support from Qatar, Turkey, and several Arab nations. However, both the U.S. and Israel rejected the deal, calling it insufficient and warning that it could allow Hamas to regroup. Gaza's humanitarian collapse. An unprecedented hunger crisis. Reports from the World Health Organization, WHO, and the World Food Programme, WFP, confirm that Gaza is facing its most severe humanitarian disaster in decades. Over 2,700 children under 5 are suffering from acute malnutrition. Nearly 700,000 women and girls lack access to basic hygiene products. The crisis deepened further when U.S.-backed food distribution centers were forced to shut down due to supply routes being bombed or caught in active combat zones. On June 5th, however, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, announced the reopening of 2 major aid centers in Gaza City and Khan Yunis. an effort seen as a flicker of hope amid the devastation. Over 1.7 million Palestinians are currently displaced, living without clean water, electricity, or medical care. Diseases such as diarrhea, pneumonia, and skin infections are spreading rapidly through makeshift refugee camps. International response: mounting pressure, ongoing deadlock. The global community remains deeply concerned about the situation in Gaza, yet diplomatic efforts to broker a ceasefire have stalled. In early June, the United States vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire and unrestricted humanitarian access. The move sparked outrage among Arab and European countries. France, Spain, and Norway officially recognized the State of Palestine in May as a diplomatic push to pressure Israel and accelerate peace talks. Israel harshly criticized the move, accusing these nations of legitimizing terrorism. In the U.S., domestic political pressure on the Biden administration is mounting. Progressive members of the Democratic Party are urging the White House to suspend military aid to Israel unless it agrees to a ceasefire and facilitates humanitarian aid access. What lies ahead for Gaza and the Middle East? The current state of affairs paints a grim and deadlocked picture. Neither Israel nor Hamas shows any sign of de-escalating. Meanwhile, Gaza's civilians continue to suffer one of the most devastating humanitarian crises of the 21st century. Despite various peace initiatives led by the UN, Egypt, Qatar, and European powers, no proposal has gained traction from both parties. The prolonged impasse risks regional spillover, especially with increased activity from Hezbollah in Lebanon and armed groups in the West Bank. Conclusion: the Gaza-Israel war in early June 2025 is no longer just a bilateral conflict. It is a harrowing symbol of diplomatic failure, humanitarian collapse, and global paralysis. Without a meaningful breakthrough in negotiations and genuine political commitment from world powers, Gaza's darkest days may still lie ahead.
Thank you for being with us and supporting Worldnewstg. Your trust and continued viewership mean the world to us. Together, we stay informed, aware, and connected to the stories shaping our world. We appreciate your presence, and we look forward to bringing you more truth, depth, and clarity in the days ahead. Stay safe, stay informed, and thank you once again for choosing Worldnewstg.